this is controlling the computer that's attached to it. Use this. What happened was Sharon launched the presentation, which you need to be more control. It looks like it's all fine. Yeah. I'll show you guys.
So
yeah, it'll work like that. I'll see what this goes. I think it's MC1. 2 years. It's turned off. Everybody's active, but then you're not nervous. It's like, the other trick is to get something like this and put it in your pocket. Because then you can fidget with it. You're making stress and then you can something like this. And everyone's just I can teach you
yeah, let's just help. Okay, but we get the also. So that's a issue there.
Good morning, I'm Tori.
Just one. No, no. I don't know if it's on. Is it on? Oh, there we go.
Good morning. I'm Tori.
And I'm Kalena.
We will be your MCs this morning.
Okay, can Nancy introduce herself?
I'm not. We got three.
What? Okay, try again.
And I'm Lindsay. Welcome to Makawao Honganji's Dharma Family Service. Please stand if you're able, and let's begin the service by singing the Vada Titsarana together in both Pali and English.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened one. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Now, one minute.
Thank you. You may be seated.
We will now sing the Gatha Gashola Kamina, which will be shown on the screen. Chanting will be followed by choir message.
I recite Amida's name with deep joy and gratitude. I gasho with Amida, trees and grasses and flowers all grow in great compassion. His light shines throughout the world. I gasho with Amida, flowers bloom and flowers fall. From the seed sprout new flowers. This is the truth unchanging. I gasho with Amida. Springtime brings the happy birds. Their songs all praise Amida. I join them in their mood soon. I gasho with Amida. When I call Amida's name, it's Amida calling me. Buddha's voice, my voice are one. I gasho with Amida. When I'm lonely, I recite Namo Amida Butsu. Then I feel great compassion. I gasho with Amida. Nembutsu, big word. moment filled with light. Eitaikyo with Amida. Remember the golden chain, kindness to all living things. I will follow this teaching. Eitaikyo with Amida. In the clear bright morning sun, in the fading light of day, in the darkness of the night, Eitaikyo with Amida. Namo Amida Butsu. I live in great compassion. This great power guides my life. Eitaikyo with Amida. Amida's vow is shared equally by all, together attaining awakened mind. We are born in the land. Let's sit together quietly for a few moments. So just relax and get comfortable. If you're able, sit forward in your seat and place both feet flat on the ground. Now sit up straight. Align your head, neck, shoulders, and back in a straight line that goes down to the floor. Place your hands comfortably in your lap. Now close your eyes and just breathe. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. As you breathe in, you'll feel energy filling your body. And as you breathe out, any stress or worries in your mind just fade away. Just breathe. The sound of the gong will signal the end of our quiet meditation. Namanda, Namanda, Namanda.
On the first Sunday of each month, we remember all those who have passed on before us, honored ancestors, departed loved ones, dear friends, and beloved companions.
During this time, we encourage everyone both here in person and at home, joining us by live stream to offer incense as an expression of gratitude for those who came before us.
Mahalo. Let's recite the golden chain of love together. Let's begin. I am a link
in the middle of this golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds, knowing that on what I do now depends not only my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. May every link in Amina's golden chain of love be bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namaste. Please rise if you're able. Please rise if you're able to sing the Gatha at our altar found on the screen or page 16 and 17 in the Gatha book.
Okay, there's no music, there's only a piano accompaniment, so we have to sing. Okay, right?
Each morning I awake to see Amida's face so good and kind. I think he says, "Good morning, child." He's glad to start the day with me. Each time
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Please be seated.
On the first Sunday of each month, we celebrate birthdays. Here's the list of birthdays we know about for November. And if your birthday is this month, please come up front.
Can you read the names? Can you read the names? No. Don't want to read the names. Okay, anybody's birthday names up there?
November?
I see Karen on the list.
Karen?
Okay, somebody take it on.
Karen! How lucky, we got 9 cupcakes. Just Karen? Just me? Just you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Okay, kids.
Do any of the Dharma students want to come have a cupcake?
Okay,
Come on.
Come on, let's go.
It's no fun if nobody's up here.
One candle on each side. Okay.
Very good. Dude, you're like 37 now.
Here, I got it.
Very good. All right. Very good.
Lindsay, how about you? Yeah, we both got Okay, anybody else? Mitch, is it your birthday? Nope.
It's Mitch's birthday.
Huh? There's a bug? Okay, give it Okay, gather together. Okay, gather together. All right. Well, watch out, don't hurt each other.
Let's sing happy birthday to our friends.
Yeah.
Ready? Go.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear friends. Happy birthday to you. And many more.
Okay, finish. All right. Kleenex. Here, Kleenex in case you get messy.
Now it's Dharma student story time.
Live from Makawao, it's children's Dharma story time, starring me, Dot. Okay, with special guests, well, they're all waiting, so we're just going to jump ahead straight to the story today. It's a little bit long, but it's one of Sensei's favorite stories, so here we go. Today's story brought to you by Auntie Jean H. is Thank You, Mr. Falker, written and illustrated by Patricia Polacco, and read by Jane Kazmarek.
Hi, I'm Jane Kazmarek. Welcome to the Screen Actors Guild Foundation Book Pals. Everybody knows that honey is delicious in tea, but can you imagine pouring it on a book? Well, Patricia Polacco can. She's the author and illustrator of a wonderful book called Thank You, Mr. Falker. She begins with a special introduction, a prologue. The grandpa held a jar of honey so that all the family could see. Then he dipped a ladle into it and drizzled honey on the cover of a small book. The little girl had just turned 5. Stand up, little one, he cooed. I did this for your mother, your uncles, your older brother, and now you. Then he handed the book to her. Taste. She dipped her finger into the honey and put it into her mouth. What is that taste? The grandma asked. The little girl answered, sweet. Then all of the family said in a single voice, yes, and so is knowledge. But knowledge is like the bee that made that sweet honey. You have to chase it through the pages of a book. The little girl knew that the promise to read was at last hers. Soon she was going to learn to read. Tricia, the littlest girl in the family, grew up loving books. Her school teacher mother read to her every night. Her red-headed brother brought his books home from school and shared them. And whenever she visited the family farm, her grandfather and grandmother read to her by the stone fireplace. When she turned 5 and went to kindergarten, most of all she hoped to read. Each day she saw the kids in the first grade across the hall reading. And before the year was over, some of the kids in her own class began to read. But not Tricia. Still, she loved being at school because she could draw. The other kids would crowd around her and watch her do her magic with the crayons. In first grade, you'll learn to read, her brother said. In first grade, Tricia sat in a circle with the other kids. They were all holding Our Neighborhood, their first reader, sounding out letters and words. They said boy, boy, and look. The teacher smiled at them when they put all the sounds together and got a word right. But when Tricia looked at the page, all she saw were wiggling shapes, and when she tried to sound out words, the other kids laughed at her. "Tricia, what are you looking at in that book?" they'd say. "I'm reading," she'd say back to them. But her teacher would move on to the next person. Always, when it was her turn to read, her teacher had to help her with every single word. And while the other kids moved up into the second reader and to the third reader, she stayed alone in Our Neighborhood. Tricia began to feel different. She began to feel dumb. The harder words got for the little girl, the more and more time she spent drawing. Oh, how she loved to draw. Or just sitting and dreaming, or when she could, going for walks with her grandmother. One summer day, she and her grandma were walking together in the small woods behind their farm. It was twilight. The air was sweet and warm. Fireflies were just coming up from the grasses. As they walked, Tricia said, "Grandma, do you think I'm different?" "Of course," her grandmother answered. "To be different is the miracle of life. You see all those little fireflies? Everyone is different." "Do you think I'm smart?" Tricia didn't feel smart. Her grandma hugged her. "You are the smartest, quickest, dearest little thing ever." Right then, the little girl felt safe in her grandma's arms. Reading didn't matter so much. Tricia's grandma used to say that the stars were holes in the sky. They were the light of heaven, coming from the other side. And she used to say that someday she would be on the other side, where the light comes from. One evening, they lay on the grass together and counted the lights from heaven. "You know," her grandmother said, "all of us will go there someday. Hang on to the grass, or you'll lift right off the ground, and there you'll be." They laughed, and they both hung on to the grass. But it was not long after that night that her grandmother must have let go of the grass, because she went to where the lights were, on the other side. And not long after that, Tricia's grandpa let go of the grass too. School seemed harder and harder now. Reading was just plain torture. When Sue Ellen read her page, or Tommy Bob read his page, they read so easily that Tricia would watch the tops of their heads to see if something was happening to their heads that wasn't happening to hers. And numbers were the hardest thing of all to read. She never added anything right. "Line the numbers up before you add them," the teacher would say. But when Tricia tried, the numbers looked like a stack of blocks, wobbly and ready to fall. She just knew. She was dumb. Then one day, her mother announced she had gotten a teaching job in California, a long way from the family farm in Michigan. Even though her grandma and grandpa were gone, the little girl didn't want to move. Maybe, though, the teachers and kids in her new school wouldn't know how dumb she was. She and her mother and brother moved across the country in a two-tone 1949 Plymouth. It took 5 days, but at the new school, it was the same. When she tried to read, she stumbled over words. The cat ran. She was reading like a baby in the 3rd grade. And when her teacher read along with them and called on Tricia for an answer, she gave the wrong answer every time. "Hey, dummy," a boy called her on the playground. "How come you're so dumb?" Other kids stood near him and they laughed. Tricia could feel the tears burning in her eyes. How she longed to go back to her grandparents' farm in Michigan. Now Tricia wanted to go to school less and less. "I have a sore throat," she'd say to her mother, or "I have a stomachache." She dreamed more and more and drew more and more, and she hated school. Then when Tricia started 5th grade, the school was all abuzz. There was a new teacher. He was tall and elegant. Everybody loved his striped coat and his slick gray pants. He wore the neatest clothes. All the usual teacher's pets gathered around him. Stevie Joe and Alice Marie, Davy and Michael Lee. But right from the start, it didn't seem to matter to Mr. Faulkner which kids were the cutest, or the smartest, or the best at anything. Mr. Faulkner would stand behind Tricia whenever she was drawing and whisper, "This is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Do you know how talented you are?" When he said this, even the kids who teased her would turn around in their seats and look at her drawings. But they still laughed whenever she gave the wrong answer. Then one day, she had to stand up and read, which she hated. She was stumbling through a page in Charlotte's Web, and the page was going all fuzzy, and the kids began to laugh out loud. Mr. Faulkner, in his plaid jacket and butterfly tie, said, "Stop! Are all of you so perfect that you can look at another person and find fault with her?" That was the last day anybody laughed out loud or made fun of her. All except Eric. He sat behind Tricia for 2 whole years, but he seemed almost to hate her. Tricia didn't know why. He waited by the door of the classroom for her and he pulled her hair. He waited for her on the playground, leaned in her face and called her Toad. Tricia was afraid to turn any corner for fear Eric would be there. She felt completely alone. The only time she was really happy was when she was around Mr. Faulkner. He let her erase the blackboards. Only the best students got to do that. He patted her on the back whenever she got something right, and he looked hard and mean at any kid who teased her. But the nicer Mr. Faulkner was to Tricia, the worse Eric treated her. He got all the other kids to wait for her on the playground or in the cafeteria or even in the bathroom, and to jump out and call her stupid or ugly. And Tricia began to believe them. She discovered that if she asked to go to the bathroom just before recess, she could hide under the inside stairwell during the free time and not have to go outside at all. In that dark place, she felt completely safe. But one day at recess, Eric followed her to her secret hiding place. "Have you become a mole?" he laughed. And he pulled her out into the hall and he danced around her. "Dumbbell, dumbbell, maggoty, oh dumbbell." Tricia buried her head in her arms. She curled up into a ball. Suddenly she heard footsteps. It was Mr. Faulkner. He marched Eric down to the office. When he came back, he found Tricia. "I don't think you have to worry about that boy again," he said softly. "What was he teasing you about, little one?" "I don't know," Tricia shrugged. Tricia was sure Mr. Faulkner believed that she could read. She had learned to memorize what the kid next to her was reading. Or she'd wait for Mr. Faulkner to help her with a sentence. Then she'd say the same thing that he did. "Good," he would say. Then one day, Mr. Faulkner asked her to stay after school and help wash the blackboards. He put on music and brought out little sandwiches as they worked and talked. All at once, he said, "Let's play a game. I'll shout out letters. You write them on the board with a wet sponge as quickly as you can." "A," he shouted. She wiped a watery A. "8," he shouted, and she made a watery 8. 14, 3, D, M, Q, he shouted out. He shouted out many, many letters and numbers. Then he walked up behind her, and together they looked at the board. It was a watery mess. Tricia knew that none of the letters or numbers looked like they should. She threw the sponge down and tried to run. But Mr. Fokker caught her arm and sank to his knees in front of her. "You poor baby," he said. "You think you're dumb, don't you? How awful for you to be so lonely and afraid." She sobbed. "But little one, don't you understand? You don't see letters or numbers the way other people do. And you've gotten through school all this time and fooled many, many good teachers." He smiled at her. That took cunning and smartness and such bravery. Then he stood up and finished washing the board. "We're going to change all that, girl. You're going to read. I promise you that." Now, almost every day after school, she met with Mr. Fokker and Miss Plessy, a reading teacher. They did a lot of things she didn't even understand. At first, she made circles in sand, and then big sponge letters on the blackboard, going from left to right, left to right. Another day, they flicked letters on a screen, and Tricia shouted them out loud. Still other days, she worked with wooden blocks and built words. Letters, letters, letters. Words, 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 always sounding them out. And that felt good. But though she'd read words, she hadn't read a whole sentence. And deep down, she still felt dumb. And then one spring day, had it been 3 months or 4 months since they started, Mr. Fokker put a book in front of her. She'd never seen it before. He picked a paragraph in the middle of the page and pointed at it. Almost as if it were magic, or if light poured into her brain, the words and sentences started to take shape on the page as they never had before. She marched them off too slowly. She read a sentence, then another and another, and finally she read a paragraph, and she understood the whole thing. She didn't notice that Mr. Fokker and Miss Plessy had tears in their eyes. And that night, Tricia ran home without stopping to catch her breath. She bounded up the front steps, threw open her front door, and ran through the dining room to the kitchen. She climbed up on the cupboard and grabbed a jar of honey. Then she went into the living room and found the book on a shelf. The very book that her grandpa had shown her so many years ago. She spooned honey on the cover and tasted the sweetness and said to herself, "The honey is sweet, and so is knowledge. But knowledge is like the bee who made the honey. It has to be chased through the pages of a book." Then she held the book, honey and all, close to her chest. She could feel tears roll down her cheeks, but they weren't tears of sadness. She was happy. So very happy. Now that's the end of the story, but it's not the end of the book. The author has a little surprise for us. Listen. The rest of the year became an odyssey of discovery and adventure for the little girl. She learned to love school. I know, because that little girl was me, Patricia Polacco. I saw Mr. Fokker again some 30 years later at a wedding. I walked up to him and introduced myself. At first, he had difficulty placing me. Then I told him who I was and how he had changed my life so many years ago. He hugged me and asked me what I did for a living. "Why, Mr. Fokker, I answered. I make books for children. Thank you, Mr. Fokker. Thank you. And thank you for listening.
Is that Krista? Yep.
Okay. Okay, wasn't that a great story? I thought it was. Okay, so what's next? Let's see. That was the story, Thank You, Mr. Fokker, written and illustrated by Patricia Polacco and read by Jane Kesner. So remember, kids, be good.
But not too much.
But not too much. Okay.
And now Dharma School students and children under age 11 can follow Auntie Sharon and Auntie Karen to the social hall for Dharma School. Have fun.
Have fun. Yes, the children are doing a gratitude garden. Okay, and when the adults do come back to the hall, we would like to have you join us in making this garden, and you could think about something that you're grateful for, just like the story. Thank you, Mr. Faulkner. Okay, so something that, and we can add it to our gratitude garden. Okay, thank you. Okay, we good?
Okay, so we'll come now.
Huh?
We'll come now and join you.
Reverend Carey will now give the Dharma talk for the rest of us.
So good morning, everybody. Aloha mai kapola. So today we marked Eitaikyo, formerly called the Eitaikyo Hoyo, which is one of the 6 major services in the Jodo Shinshu Hongan Jihad tradition. So we'll take a few moments to explain the meaning and significance of Eitaikyo. So what is Eitaikyo? Eitaikyo is literally translated as perpetual sutra. So perpetual sutra chanting. And I know that for many of us, when we actually chant the sutras in Sino-Japanese, it sounds like it lasts forever. And that's, that's supposed to be a joke, so you can laugh. And it's because it's true. You think about it, right? The sutras are written in a language we don't understand. And, there's no melody, per se. And chanting is monotonous. We do gasho with the mida, which is sung to the melody of Junidai, which also is not a sutra, because it was written by Nagarjuna, one of the Pure Land masters, not by the Buddha. So, when we look at the book, the first part, right, when we talk about Shoshinge, this is considered a hymn. It's not a sutra, because this is written by Shinran Shomen. So you can impress your friends with trivia knowledge like that. However, when we get to like Sanbutsu again, sorry, I thought it was the slide saying something. So when we get to like Sanbutsu again, this is actually the Japanese pronunciation of Chinese kanjis, which is a translation from Sanskrit. Okay. The Buddha didn't speak Sanskrit. We actually don't know what language the Buddha taught. So for 100 years, right, the words of the Buddha were transmitted orally. And so the big sutras usually start with usetsu, right? So the Buddha explained. Or it will say Nyose Gamo, which is thus I have heard. So again, so this is for 100 years, the only way the Buddha's teachings were transmitted were through, I say it, you say it, we all memorize it together. Oh, I forgot the 3rd line, but Mitch remembers the 3rd line. So, but everybody together, that's how the sutras go. So 100 years later, they start writing it down. Right? So writing technology, printing technology didn't exist in the Buddhist time. So, I think that's in here. So what is a sutra? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so we're talking about how the Buddha dies. So for 100 years, right? I remember the Buddha. The Buddha said this. Right? Thus I have heard. And so all of the sutras come to us 100 years later. So why is chanting sutra important? Because it's supposed to remind us that without this commitment of the monks, right, we wouldn't have this wisdom in front of us today. So, let's see. Okay, so sutra chanting is considered one, praising the virtues of the Buddha. So you can see, like the previous generation, like praising Amida's virtues. That's what this is for. It is also, sutra chanting is important because it's perpetuating the Dharma. It's perpetuating the Dharma. And it's a way to study the Dharma. So Mitch, everybody's welcome to join us on Sunday mornings about 8:15. We're practicing the Shoshinget. I'm trying to explain the significance of it. It's a big commitment. It's a big commitment. But I will say this, if you want to be ordained as a priest, you're supposed to memorize it. All 120 verses. So if you ever meet someone who received Tokudo, so ordination, you're tested on whether you have it memorized or not. So you can imagine if you're not, even if you're a Japanese person, right, what this is actually Sino-Japanese. It's not Japanese. So it's hard. If you grow up in a temple, you go to, you do this every day, easy. Right? But here, at Makawao Honganji, you might hear Shoshinge once or twice a year. Mainly because people can't tolerate it. It's just too long in a foreign language. But that's some of the reasons why we do this. Also, it's a group breathing exercise. So, we all have, it forces us to breathe together at the same time because of the way the beats are set. And so, in that sense, it's a form of meditation. You can look at chanting as meditation. So about 100 years after the death of Shakyamuni Buddha, the Gautama Buddha, the words are written down on strips of wood, right, tied together with thread. Okay, so it's kind of hard to see, but they're like these pieces of wood and they're connected with a thread. In Sanskrit, so for extra points, who knows what sutra means? It means thread. Exactly. So Lauren's been paying attention because you heard me do this a couple times. So, but the string, the thread, is actually what sutra refers to. In the very, very fancy ceremonial robes, which we don't wear here in Hawaii, there's a special knot that goes on the back of the cape that we wear, and that's called a shutara, and that is actually from sutra. Again, you have to go to Tokudo to enjoy these kind of jokes. But for whatever reason, we don't wear the most ceremonial robes. Even the bishop doesn't have a set, for whatever reason, I'm not sure why. If you go to the BCA temple, you go to America, you go to Canada, you will see people dressed up in what they call the shichijo-gesa. So this is the everyday robes, the more fancy ones which you see. I'm supposed to be wearing the fancy robes today, but I chose not to. Because I'm actually supposed to set up the altar in a special way as well. So the sutra, it's an important practice. Every tradition of Buddhism that you find has some form of sutra chanting because it always goes back to the words of the Buddha. It's a way of studying and passing on the Buddhist teachings. If you go down to the Paien site, Mong Sen, Reverend Haga will be very happy to show you how to copy the sutras with calligraphy. So you take the Japanese, the Sino-Japanese characters, right, and you copy the sutra character by character. Right? And this is considered one, a form of meditation. Two, it's showing your devotion to the knowledge that's contained in the sutra. Three, it's something you do together. Right? And it's a way to start memorizing the words. So if you'd like to copy sutras, I'm happy to set you up with Mong Sen. He's a really cool guy. And so it's a way to express our gratitude for the Buddha's teachings. So here we go. The original sutra is written down in Pali. Right? So what the Buddha spoke was not Pali, but a different language, which nobody's really sure what it was. It gets written down in Pali, which then becomes Sanskrit, which exists today. And then it's translated from Sanskrit into Chinese.
two directions. One is a Central Asian person, so someone who spoke that language natively, and then studied Chinese really, really, really hard. So became very fluent in Chinese. His translations are considered very literate in Chinese. And the other one is a Chinese person who studied Sanskrit and is reinterpreting it back into Chinese. These sutras, like the Chinese sutras, come over to Japan, where they're interpreted by the Japanese. And this is what we see in this. So the educated class during Shinran's time, everybody wrote in classical Japanese, Kanban, essentially using the Chinese characters for Japanese words. Grammatical structure is a little bit different. The point just being, by the time the sutras come to Hawaii 130 years ago, right, it's in Japanese translation. All of the priests, all of the ministers are from Japan, right, thinking in Japanese. And then we start translating them into English. Right? Because people say, I don't understand what I'm chanting. Why should I chant something I don't understand? And so we're actually one of the few districts that has English translations of the sutras. So we could do Sanbutsuge in English if you like. And it sounds like this. Bong, bong, your face shines in great splendor, boundless, wondrous dignity, such the greatness of your light beyond comparison. Right? It's like, that makes no sense at all. Why? This is a very small portion of the larger sutra, the Tathagata of immeasurable life. So I keep pointing to the scrolls, but there's the two thick ones on the right side. It's an hour and a half. Okay? So we take out just this one section. So to understand what this sutra means, if you read it in translation, you go, what is this? Who's talking to who? And again, so this is one of the disciples when Amida, when Gautama becomes a Buddha, his face, his countenance, his face, right? So your face is shining in great splendor. What's up? And then the Buddha says, hey, good thing you noticed, thank you. And he starts talking about how he has awakened to reality as it is. The point simply being that if you want to understand the sutras, it's a lot of work. You know, so as Americans, we want it in TikTok, 30-second videos, 15-second videos. Give me the absolute truth in 15 seconds, boom. No, you actually have to read all this stuff for it to make any kind of sense. Then you have to understand where does the larger sutra fit into the entire canon of sutras. Is it part of the Pali canon? Is it from Central Asia? Is it Chinese? Is it Japanese? Is it English? Gassho with Amida, Gassho to Amida, was written in the 1970s in English in the United States by a bishop of the BCA, who's actually a wonderful poet. If you can ever read his materials, it's really great stuff. And he was trying to get it to what Americans want. So, which is, how do I understand this stuff? And it's actually quite brilliant. But I'm going to reintroduce the chanting in Sino-Japanese just to be funny. I'd like to get the older Dharma school kids to practice. So you get to be chanting leader. I can teach you how to sit like this and hit the gong and stuff. And if you're really ambitious, we can do Shoshinga, because that'll be the first step to becoming ordained as a priest in the Honganji. You guys will look good with shaved heads, trust me. Okay. Actually, I'm inviting Raymond Takayua, who was actually the youngest president of the Honganji Temple in Hawaii. And we were training for Tokudo together. He decided he needed a real job. So he did pursue Tokudo. He just passed Tokudo. So there's pictures on Facebook and stuff with the shaved head. So I'm inviting him over as a speaker. And you have to ask him, right? So why would you want to be a Honganji minister? And how did you memorize the Shoshinga? There's only one way to do it. You chant it 3 times a day. So. But just to say that it's a bit of a commitment. And again, so the melody, okay. So let's just skip ahead. So literally, when we look at the kanjis, it looks like this. Right? So Eitai means perpetual. Kyo is the sutra. Right? And it actually refers to the chanting of sutra forever and ever and ever. So in the simplest form, it's the chanting of sutra in the memory of our departed loved ones and honored ancestors. So today is Eitaikyo. We observe this tradition of So I've switched to using scrolling credits, right? So the names of the people who passed away this month just kind of go by. And if you're looking for it, yeah, you can see it. Traditionally, on this day, I would read out every name, which is usually why it starts 2 hours early and people come to listen to the reading of the names. But again, think about this, right? Eitaikyo means that you will be remembered forever. And that's why people make donations to the Eitaikyo Fund. Some of you may have heard of the Eitaikyo Fund, which is long-term capital fund. Basically, if you give money to the Eitaikyo Fund, it's supposed to be stuck in the bank. You never touch it unless it's a rainy day. It becomes the emergency. So long-term capital accumulation. Other donations, the ones you put in the box, is for operating expenses. But Eitaikyo was to ensure the chanting would happen forever and ever and ever. So perpetual dharma. And that's why a lot of the temples, the big chunk of money, if they has to have money, is in a fund called Eitaikyo Fund, which everyone kind of like, we're not supposed to touch that money. Actually, you do. If the temple survival is at stake, you tap into those funds. So anyway, Eitaikyo is specifically that we don't forget our honored ancestors and departed loved ones. So here in Hawaii, because it's 5 generations later, Japanese tradition gets a little bit mixed up. So Eitaikyo at the Honganji temples is an observance to remember our ancestors, to express our gratitude. However, it gets mixed up with something called Eitaikuyo, or Tsuizan Kuyo, or just Kuyo. Now this is specifically rites and rituals such as the chanting of sutras, giving money, offering fruits, flowers, food, burning incense, offering of incense, to ensure the repose of the souls of our ancestors. Right? So in other words, you do these rituals to make sure that our ancestors who are in the spirit world are happy and they continue staying there. We don't want them to come over to this side and be ghosts. So that's the idea. So then you have to do this, and if you don't do it, bachi, right? Something bad will happen because you're failing to do the rites and rituals. So this is the whole thing about bachi. If we don't do the 49-day service, we get bachi. Honganji is very clear, Shinran's teaching is very clear, you don't need to do this. It's not a religious necessity. It's just part of Japanese culture, which comes from Chinese culture, which has been around for centuries. So this comes over to Hawaii 130 years ago, right? Our great-grandparents, we got to do this stuff. It gets passed down to your grandparents. I think we're supposed to do something. It gets passed down to your parents, right? Who say, well, I remember my mom and dad doing this when somebody passed away. Then it passes down to the sons and daughters who now have their own children. And it's confusing. It's confusing. So, just to say that it's kind of confusing, that, isn't the priest supposed to do the sutra chanting to make sure that everything's okay with the people who passed away? And that's not what it's for. In Indian tradition, this is called puja. So if you ever go to India on a pilgrimage and you're visiting temples and you want to get access to it, you just tell them, puja, I want to make an offering to the temple. And they will often escort you to the temple itself. Mainly because it's a source of income for the temple. So you may have seen at Wailuku Honganji, on the wall, there's this big scroll with a bunch of names on it. That's their Eitaikyo list. So in other words, so next to, let's say, Shinran, there'd be the thing that has people's names on it. So for people who contribute to the Eitaikyo Fund, you get your name on that. And it's the same idea that we are always expressing our gratitude to the people who came before us. So traditionally, every day at sunrise, the priest opens the Eitaikyo book to all the names of people who passed away on that day. You dedicate the chanting of the sutras in the memory of those people. And so, we do this every day. And so, so today is November 2nd, tomorrow November 3rd. Everybody, and the list is pretty long. The list is pretty long, you'd be surprised. And this, again, the Eitaikyo Fund. So the point is, this all gets mixed together. And Shinran's very clear. You don't have to, you don't sing the Shoshin yet to make sure, mom and dad's spirit stays on the spirit side. You don't need to do that. Because Amida's compassion is so great, embraces people just as they are. They become a Buddha. They go to the Pure Land, become a Buddha, come back as normal Amida Butsu. you don't have to worry about all this stuff. So again, the question becomes, why do we do it? And then from a very human, sense of things, it's to remind us, we're sitting here in this temple today because of generations who came before us. Right? The people who made the transition from Paia to Makawao in the 70s. Wow! The leadership, the lay people who raised all this money to build this thing, build the structure, right? And then build the kitchen, and then acquire the peach tree lot next door, which gives us room to grow. Otherwise, we get locked into this little space, like most of our temples. So it's a chance to say thank you. It's a reminder. Because Shinran is quoted in the Tanisho, in the record of lamented divergences, is saying, "As for me, Shinran, I have never said the Nembutsu even once for the repose of my departed father and mother." This is Shinran, the founder of our tradition, saying you don't have to say Naman Nembutsu, right, for the repose of the souls of your departed loved ones. Because Amida takes care of everything. It's quite the thing. However, right, people still believe that you need to have the priest come over to do these services. So here's a classic Japanese story that's always used in Jodoshin Shokonganji tradition to illustrate this truth. The story begins. Genzo was a farmer in Shimane, Japan. One day, Genzo's maid was going to visit her parents. So Genzo gave her a bag of potatoes as a gift. A couple weeks later, when Genzo's maid returns, she says, "My parents asked me to thank you for the potatoes, so thank you very much, Genzo." Whereupon Genzo replies, "Don't thank me, thank the potatoes." The end. Very Jodoshinshu story. You can actually find this story in the pamphlet, Gratitude, Its Source and Power, by the late Reverend Dr. Taitetsu Uno. So as Americans, right, in November we celebrate Thanksgiving. It's a day for reflection, gratitude, and feasting together as ohana and family and friends. So this Thanksgiving, which I guess is in a couple weeks, actually every day we should pause and reflect upon the causes and conditions, right, the inconceivable chain of events and situations, like the hard work of the people working the land, raising the animals, planting the seeds, or actually those the potatoes grow from sprouts things or something, preparing the food, right? The animals, the fish, the vegetables, the fruits, the living beings. They give up their life energy so that we can live. So this moment is created by this endless chain of all these things coming together, including, right, the plants, the oatmeal that I ate this morning, the fruits that I ate this morning. So that's the simple message, just thank the potatoes. So if you're going to remember one thing from Eitaikyo, thank the potatoes. That's a good story when people say, "Oh, you're Buddhist, can you do a Buddhist blessing of food?" It's a simple story, everyone gets it.
Question?
Yes?
So if I came and I wanted to copy the sutras, would I be learning old kanji or modern kanji?
It depends, but generally speaking, the sutras would be in the pre-war kanjis.
Pre-war kanji.
Be more complicated, but it depends. So the schools that do that, so like the Ninzai school, Shakyo, copying the sutras, it's one of the things they do as practice. So they may have shifted to the modern kanjis just to make it easier for people to write.
How would I know that?
What's that?
How would I know if I was copying modern or pre-war?
Well, if you're asking that question, you'd know. It's really simple. The traditional kanji sets have maybe 50% to 100% more elements. So if you see something with 32 strokes, that's an old one. They were all changed. And they're basically simplified. And they dropped some of the kanjis. So, if you read Japanese fluently, if you can read classical Japanese, if you can read modern Chinese, yeah, you could tell the difference.
Okay, so modern Chinese is pre-war kanji.
Modern Chinese, after the Communist era, the Cultural Revolution in the 1950s, they switched to Putonghua, which is the generalized language using pinyin, which is the romanized form, and they simplified every kanji in existence, which just throws people off. And so you could, I mean, there's certain kanjis which, Japanese is written this way, modern Chinese is written this way. But if you go to Taiwan or you go to Hong Kong, they use the traditional character sets. So if you want to work in Asia, you need to learn 3 different character sets. So this part of the talk, we're actually over time already. Just to say that itadakimasu and gochiso-sama, as I've talked about before, right? Again, it's a simple practice. Do it every day, every meal. Just to remind yourself that on Eitaikyo, the other story they use, the potato story, is a good one. But if you think about it, you go back 10 generations. So I have a mother and father, and it's got 2 of those. They had mothers and fathers, so there's 4 of them. I have 4 grandparents. They each had mothers and fathers. Right? You go back 10 generations, 1,024 people have to meet before you get to me. Go back 20 generations, it's 1,000,000 to 24,000 or something like that. So in other words, if you think about it, we go back 10 generations, it's 1,000 people before it comes to us. And that's for everybody. So just think of that. And that's why we say, Mama Midabutsu, that's why we say, Itadakimasu. We're allowed to gratefully receive this food, and also gochiso-sama, to thank the potato. So, let's do that today. I was actually going to go into what I wanted. We'll skip over that part. Just to say, in Japan, this is considered as so important. There's actually words of thanksgiving before and after, right, which acknowledges the whole idea of thanking the potatoes, all of these lives, all of these people involved in receiving this food. So we'll just jump over that one. So thank you very much. MCs, wake up. It's back over to you.
Let's all chant the Maya Sutta, the Loving Kindness Sutra, together.
Let's begin.
May all beings be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May I be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to me. May I live in peace and harmony. May my family be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May my friends be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May my teachers be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May strangers be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May my enemies be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May all beings be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. Now,
Please rise if you're able, and let's sing the O Jongkusan, which will be found on the screen.
Oh
remain standing and let's sing the Nembutsu, which will be found on the screen.
Walks looking far ahead and pays no attention to the ground beneath their eyes, they will stumble. If one gazes critically upon others and forgets to look into oneself, they will bring tragedy upon themselves. The wisdom of Denyo Shonin, who lived in the 15th century in Japan. Namo Amida Butsu.
So let's sit together quietly again for a few moments. So just relax, get comfortable. If you're able, sit forward in your seat and place both your feet flat on the ground. Sit up straight, align your head, neck, shoulders, and back in a straight line that goes down to the floor. Place your hands comfortably in your lap. And just breathe, and close your eyes halfway, so you're looking both outwardly and inwardly. And just breathe. Breathe in, and breathe out. Breathe in, and breathe out. As you breathe in, think of something for which you are grateful. And as you breathe out, just say mahalo. Just say thank you, thank you, thank you. Just breathe. The sound of the gong will signal the end of our quiet meditation.
We have announcements. Here's the schedule for this November.
Oops, sorry, that's not right. Sorry, I didn't update the script. It says today's service is... the note on this one is just November 23rd is the Winter Garage Sale Setup Day, so there's no service. Also, I'm going to be traveling to Lanai to help them commemorate the 100th anniversary. So if you want to go to Lanai Honganji, let us know. We're all getting on the 6:30 ferry, and they're going to pick us up and take us up to the temple. The bishop is coming. All three ministers from Maui are going to be wearing our formal robes. So it's a big deal service. We'll see how many people actually come. And then end of the month is Dharma Family Service. Is Karen here? That's right, so she went up to teach. So anyway, just mark it on your calendar. December 6th is the Winter Garage Sale, 1 day only. So November 23rd is the setup day. We need lots of volunteers, both before and after and during. And go see Karen if you have time to do that. Over to you guys.
We have the sign-up schedule for the setup day. For luncheon, Karen has it up in social hall, so you can sign up to bring lunch.
Okay, yeah, so there's a sign-up sheet. Karen has it up in social hall. So let's go see Karen.
If there are no other announcements, everyone is welcome to enjoy refreshments and talk story in the social hall. Thank you.